Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. I have the perfect clip to show you guys today. You know, I've recorded thousands of videos, I've made all kinds of claims, and every now and then you gotta revisit those claims and provide a little bit of extra context, some evidence or an example. I've made the claim many times that the left is a cult. Basically, the standard is you're either with us 100% or you're the enemy. You either follow the leftist dogma, which is ever-changing, changes every freaking week, always keep up to date and follow the trend, whatever the new stance is, whatever those woke academics are saying. You must not question and must simply adopt the talking point. And of course we know that it's ever changing because if Donald Trump ever says something, well then the left immediately reacts and says the opposite. Like I always say, if Donald Trump says that he loves breathing and he loves oxygen, leftists will hold their breath. And that's because they're in a cult. They're in a Trump-deranged, do the opposite of the other side, simply follow the dogma cult. And this clip is proof of exactly that. Dr. Phil makes a visit on the David Pakman show, and holy frickin' cringe camole. Wait till you guys see this interaction. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so first, let's go to the start of the interview, where the tone is set almost immediately.
I've been watching some of the Fox News appearances, looking at the book, etc. I never really saw you as a guy who delved into political issues per se. You seem more willing, interested, and I must say, maybe more conservative than I thought you were. Is that a fair assessment?
David Pakman literally starts with labels. Oh, well, I've engaged in political conversations with all kinds of people. You know what I never do to start off the conversation? Hey, fellow human being, put yourself in a box for me, will ya? What political label box do you fit in? Because it seems as though you're the enemy. It's that sort of weird leftist Hollywood culture, that big city, New York City elitist Democrat culture of you're either with us or you're an evil fascist MAGA conservative Republican. Hey, what you were saying there sounds awfully conservative. Are you a conservative? Shall I diagnose you with the evil curse of conservatism? Automatic, right off the bat, it's cult-like behavior. It's a binary view of us versus them. Are you with us or are you not? But it gets even crazier when you understand the actual context, like what they're discussing, because what Dr. Phil is talking about is the traditional family unit, the nuclear family, and the importance of preserving that family, why it's crucial to maintaining everything around us.
Right.
I talk about these things as cultural issues from a psychological, psychosocial standpoint, how they affect families and people. And they do overlap with some of the things that politicians talk about, but they talk about it from a political standpoint, funding standpoint, how they can get this bill or that bill through, couldn't care less. But I am interested in those issues in terms of how they impact families in their day-to-day pursuit of life and peace and being able to raise their family in a healthy environment. So there's a lot of overlap, but I don't talk about it from a political standpoint because I frankly don't know enough about the politics of it all.
That's
I'm just willing to admit that. I'm just willing to admit it. I don't think a lot of other people know either. I'm just willing to admit it.
I don't want to make this like, famously there's this story of literary critics were talking about the symbolism in Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, and he would tell them, that's not at all what I meant. And so I don't want to make this where I tell you about how political all the stuff you say is, but the reason why I say it is a lot of the language in the book and when you talk about issues like immigration and culture and others, it seems as though it alludes to going back to the good old days, individual decisions in the style that many Republicans now talk about with regard to schooling and parenting, et cetera. But you're saying it's just not the case.
No, and that doesn't mean that there aren't politicians on both sides of the aisle that talk about these issues. But if you really think about raising a family in America, whether it's now or 50 years ago or 20 years down the road, we still have to keep our eye on what I think are core issues in America. And I think the backbone of America is the family unit. I really think that if we have strong families, if we have strong family values, and I think that our families in America, as you've heard me say and read me say, are under attack. And I think some of those attacks are unintended consequences of technology, for example. But these are things that, whether politicians talked about them or not, if they tried to legislate about them or not, I would still be talking about.
Now, does that sound like conservatism to you? Dr. Phil then continues, everything he said there was common sense. None of it was conservative or left-wing. See, that's the problem. People fall into these bubbles, and I was one of them. I thought of myself in my younger years as a good liberal. Now, granted, I was naive, didn't have adult world experience. You know, it happens to young people, especially when you're in school. But as I got older, I started to realize that, political parties, political labels are just dumb. It depends on the context, of course. In some cases, I'll say that I'm a conservative, but generally, I'm using it in a more literal sense. On many social issues, on the issue of family, I'm absolutely a conservative because I want to conserve traditional values and views. I also have some liberal views. Liberal, libertarian, live and let live kind of views. I'm very pro legalization of cannabis, for instance. So the point that I'm trying to make is that yes, there are, more conservative people, there are more liberal people, but this idea that you are one and one alone, that you're either a liberal or a conservative, it's dumb, it makes no sense, and it leads to cult-like behavior, where your team always has to win, where your team always has to be right. Where if the other side says something or does something, even if it's fully freaking common sense, like what Ron DeSantis has done in Florida, for instance, relating to parental rights and education and protecting school children from inappropriate material and, predatory sort of behavior from teachers, let's call it. This is common sense stuff, but the left will throw a freaking hissy fit just because Ron DeSantis did it. And they'll, of course, promote fake news propaganda like it's the Don't Say Gay bill. At that point, you're in a cult. I didn't understand the point of this interview. David Pakman has Dr. Phil on his show, supposedly to discuss ideas, but the whole freaking time he's just like, you're a conservative. No, you can't run away from it, Dr. Phil. You're a conservative. The title of the video is literally, Dr. Phil confronted, you are a right-winger. Amazing like to dislike ratio, by the way. Absolutely crazy, backward, unjustifiable stuff. These leftoids have their heads so far up their behinds it's not even funny. You could walk up to a group of leftoids and say, I believe in individual freedoms, small government, free trade, and free markets. And they'll say, you're a fascist. The small government guy is a fascist, is an alt-right crazy person because they believe in individual rights and self-determination. Okay, you can say something like, look, I don't deny the existence of gay people, but I just think the topic is inappropriate for prepubescent children, especially within a sexual context, and we probably shouldn't be promoting, gender ideology, this sort of trans-social contagion to young kids, especially not within the public school system. And they'll say you're a homophobic, transphobic bigot who wants to genocide people. I mean, what is going on? We can't have a conversation. Dr. Phil is right. There is a group of people, they're called cultural Marxists, attempting to redefine what America stands for and what are American values. And you're not a right-winger if you have an issue with that. You may be a little bit conservative on that particular issue because you want to conserve what made America great in the first place. You want to conserve that base tradition and, of course, the traditional family unit. But you're not a right-winger. You're not an alt-right fascist. You're not a crazy person. You're not an ultra-MAGA extremist. You're a person with common sense. And if you're an honest person with common sense, well, then you probably shouldn't engage with leftoids, expecting them to be able to operate on that level. They simply can't. Everything's black and white, binary, good versus bad. You're either with them or you're the enemy. This is what I mean when I say the left is a cult. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.